The yellow school bus exhaled a hiss of brakes as it stopped at the curb in front of Ridgeview High School. Morning sunlight painted long shadows across the campus lawn, and the brick building stood like a fortress, sturdy and indifferent to the lives inside. Students spilled out of the bus in clusters, laughing, shouting, jostling like they belonged, like they had always belonged. No one noticed the last girl stepping off. Her name was Amira Johnson. Her backpack hung loosely over one shoulder, her sneakers scuffed but clean, her black hoodie zipped to her chin despite the heat. She walked slowly, eyes scanning the facade of the school like a soldier assessing terrain. Her face betrayed no emotion, no excitement, no fear. She had done this before, too many times to count. Another school, another chance to disappear. She wasn't here to make friends. She was here to finish her senior year, earn her diploma, and leave. Behind her, the doors of the bus slammed shut. Inside, the hallway was alive with motion, slamming lockers, high-pitched giggles, the bass thump of someone's Bluetooth speaker tucked deep in a backpack. Amira moved through the crowd like a shadow, silent, invisible. But she felt the stares, heard the half-whispers. Is she new? She's from Detroit, I think. She looks mad already. It was always the same. They weren't just curious. They were watching, calculating. Would she be loud? Would she fight? Would she be one of those girls? Amira kept walking. Her locker was near the science wing, and as she spun the combination on the dial, she caught a glimpse of them for the first time. There, holding court like royalty, stood Cassidy Monroe, the girl everyone had whispered about on the bus. Tall, blonde, bone-thin with glossy lips and a glittery phone case she never put away. Cassidy didn't walk through school, she floated. Her voice was syrupy sweet with just enough venom to scar. Around her hovered her inner circle. Brianna, the sidekick with a mean streak and a fake laugh, and Zoe, the silent one who smiled even when she didn't understand the joke. Flanking them were two boys. Connor Monroe, Cassidy's older brother. Senior, quarterback, handsome in the bland, effortless way that made teachers and cheerleaders swoon. He had the grin of someone who'd never faced consequences. And Mason Trent, the mouth. Skinny, sharp-tongued, and always one joke away from crossing a line. Amira knew his type. She'd seen a dozen Masons in a dozen cities. They weren't threats. They were noise. She turned back to her locker, but she could feel it. Cassidy's stare. The assessment. The decision forming. The first class passed without incident. Amira sat at the back, quiet, attentive, writing notes in the margins of her worn-out notebook. But the whispers continued. They always did. She's from Detroit, someone murmured. I heard she used to fight. She probably got expelled. At lunch, she sat alone. Corner of the cafeteria. Back to the wall. Eyes on the exits. Then came the voice. Well, look what the bus dragged in. Cassidy's tone was light, mocking, performative. Her audience chuckled on cue. Amira didn't look up. She stabbed her fork into a piece of apple. Are you shy? Brianna sneered, leaning closer. She's not shy. She's stuck up, Zoe added, laughter dancing on the edge of her voice. She probably doesn't even speak English, Mason piped up, the joke snapping through the air like a whip. Laughter rippled through the cafeteria. Connor approached the table slowly, towering. Or maybe she's just slow. A hush fell. Cassidy's smile tightened. She needed a reaction. She reached out and flicked Amira's juice cup with her manicured fingers. It spilled across her tray, soaking her food. Silence. Amira set her fork down. Slowly, deliberately. She wiped her hands with a napkin, stood up, picked up her tray, and walked away. She didn't say a word. Behind her, the laughter sputtered to life again, but it wasn't confident anymore. It wasn't triumphant. There was an edge of confusion, a crack in the rhythm. Cassidy felt it too, because Amira had looked at her before leaving. Just once. And in that glance, there was no fear, no shame, just patience. That night, Cassidy couldn't sleep. She lay awake replaying the moment. Amira's silence, her unflinching gaze, that tiny smile like a blade. Cassidy had won. So why didn't it feel like it? The next day, the tension thickened. Amira felt it the second she stepped on campus. The stares weren't curious anymore. They were watchful. Some admiring. Some suspicious. The air had shifted. She wasn't just the new girl now. She was a question. And questions made people nervous. In gym class, the games began again. Accidental elbows during basketball. Oops, my bad, shoves in the hallway. Connor blocked her path twice. Mason trailed her like a mosquito with a phone. Cassidy watched from a distance, arms folded, waiting for Amira to snap. But she didn't. She moved like water. Unbothered. Composed. Each insult bounced off her like pebbles on steel. By Friday, Cassidy was done waiting. After lunch, a note was passed. Mason whispered. Connor smirked. After school. Behind the gym. No teachers. No cameras. Just a little correction. Amira knew it was coming. She'd seen it play out before. In Detroit, in Milwaukee, in Baltimore. Same script. Different cast. She walked to the back of the school with steady feet. The cracked pavement behind the gym was already crowded. Cassidy stood at the center, arms crossed. Connor and Mason flanked her like bodyguards. Brianna and Zoe smirked nearby. Around them, students formed a loose circle, phones ready, breath held. Amira stopped a few feet away. You actually showed up, Cassidy said, raising a brow. I wasn't running, Amira replied. Cassidy scoffed. You didn't even stand up for yourself. Amira tilted her head slightly, like she was bored. You think spilling juice is a fight? Cassidy's smile twitched. I'm here to warn you, Amira said. That made Cassidy blink. Connor straightened. Mason's grin faltered. Warn me, Cassidy repeated. You don't want to do this, Amira said calmly. Show her what happens when you mouth off, Cassidy snapped. Connor stepped forward. Amira didn't move. He swung, and she vanished. A twist, a pivot, a shift in gravity. Connor's body slammed onto the pavement with a sickening thud. The wind rushed from his lungs. His eyes bulged. The crowd gasped. Amira stepped back. I warned you, she said softly. Mason charged next, teeth bared. She caught his wrist mid-swing, twisted, dropped him to one knee in a blur of muscle and motion. He cried out. Amira let go. He didn't try again. The silence was total. Cassidy's mouth was open, her eyes wide. Amira turned toward her. Do you still think I was running? Cassidy couldn't speak. Amira started to walk away, and Cassidy snapped. She lunged, grabbing for Amira's hair in desperation. A last-ditch effort to reclaim control. Amira caught her wrist midair, held it, effortlessly. Then she turned, slowly, her eyes locking onto Cassidy's. You don't have power over me, Amira said quietly, and you never will. Then she let go. Cassidy stumbled backward, humiliated. Amira walked away. No gloating, no victory lap, just silence. And this time, it was final. By Monday, Ridgeview High had changed. Cassidy sat at her usual table, but it wasn't hers anymore. Brianna and Zoe avoided her gaze. Connor nursed a bruise on his hip. Mason kept his arm close to his chest. The whispers weren't about Cassidy anymore. They were about Amira. She still sat alone, still quiet. But now, people glanced her way with something that wasn't fear. It was respect. Basketball players nodded as they passed. Girls who used to snicker now paused near her table, unsure whether to speak. But Amira didn't care. She hadn't come to take Cassidy's crown. She came to survive. And she had. At lunch, Cassidy picked at her food, trying to pretend the world hadn't shifted. But when Amira walked past her table and stopped, the breath caught in her throat. We're done, Amira said simply. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. Everyone heard it. Everyone saw it. Cassidy didn't reply. Because there was nothing left to say, Amira walked away again. And this time, no one laughed. They watched. They listened. And in that quiet, Cassidy Monroe understood for the first time in her life what it meant to lose. Not just a fight, but everything. And Amira? She had nothing to prove anymore. She had already won. End of story.